Hello there and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
And I am Mike Forrester. Hey, when we record late, because it's a Tuesday, and we're talking about Maul, we're bringing on producer Jason. Jason is here. Say hello to the people, Jason.
Hey, what's up, boys? How's it going? Happy to be here. Nice to come on and talk some Maul. Everybody is super stoked on the show. We can't stop talking about it, so very excited.
We're weekly getting mauled.
Nice.
It's great.
Nice. I think there's a part of this show in terms of not only the character that's driving this, but also just the fact that we are getting freshly served some of the best looking animation Lucasfilm has put out, which the bar has been continuously set high from Clone Wars Season 7.
Yep.
The Tales of series have been awesome, but this show, especially these two episodes, is really a huge shout out to the ILM team for really giving us a treat and purposefully doing it in a way that feels like it is still very much in their control of what is an art direction and what is just standard animation. The train scene, which we'll get into it, felt like I was watching multiple different art styles. I'm like, I need to rewatch it because I remember being like, my brain feels like it's broken. This is incredible.
Dude, I had a lot of the same feelings. And, I mentioned, I think last week about Vario, you kind of shuffled back. There was a little subtle animation there. There are a lot of things like that are happening that aren't complicated, but when you're doing a series that is a lower budget, it's for a streamer, you might not always necessarily have the time, the human hours to put into that or the render time within the budget. And we're seeing a lot of that stuff here. So it's making me wonder what is allowing for that, and, whether it's budget up front and that comes from confidence in the story, or if it's the animation pipeline now is more efficient. I've mentioned this before, but what we all really want is to be able to get someone from Lucasfilm who, whether they're an animator or an artist, someone who has some insights, who's allowed to talk about this stuff on a podcast, to get on here as a guest and tell us a few things. Jason, you can probably just make it happen, right?
Yeah, sure. I'll just call them up. They usually hang out in my front yard on Tuesdays. I'll see what they're there. I mean, like in it, but it's like it's in all aspects. D.W. Collins absolutely crushing it with sound. I mean, there are some very sort of cinematic transitions in between scenes that feel like very elevated as far as the sound design goes. Even little things like, I think about the scene when Marak goes to the abandoned factory to look for clues of what had happened there before, and the textures and the way that things are lit in that scene in particular. I remember the seams in his leather gloves just look photoreal. It's really phenomenal. The physics of some things, that speaks to a little bit of what you were talking about with the character falling backwards and the weight. There was a portion where Master Eco drops his lightsaber, and the physics of the way that it falls and sort of rocks a little bit on the ground looks real. It has weight to it. I mean, I feel like that's something that I was sometimes missing from Lucasfilm Animation over the last 10 to 15 years. And the point that they've got to, and then the leap between what we've last seen now in these Tales of or Bad Batch Season 3 to this, I think is like astronomical. Like, it's gotten so much better so quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
I completely agree. I actually commented on, let's see, which animator was it? I commented on someone's Instagram. There was a shot, and they mentioned that the hand-painted motion blur, it was one of the confrontations between Maul and, it was Rookcast and somebody, but she did a flip and then popped up with her blaster. And the flip, as her foot came over, had this long kind of, it's very quick, but it's a much longer motion blur than would probably be generated by a procedural physics-based thing. And the same thing with her blaster, and it was hand-painted. So I asked, was it hand-painted just because you wanted that extra look, that almost like anime-esque thing? Or is it the kind of thing where, because it's procedurally generated, meaning there are like nodes within the workflow where you say, this is the color one, this is the motion blur one, and you add these, kind of layers of stuff that you couldn't achieve exactly what you were looking for there, or both, Either way, hand painting motion blur, you don't take the time to do that on a series that you're cranking out for a streamer that's just some old animation series,
22 episodes a season.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's all beautiful. And I guess we're talking about all this now, so I'll say this here too. One thing that I really loved, Jason, going back to your comment about physics, when they were in the chase with the stolen LAT transport, there was like a dive when Devin was going kind of under the bridges, and it was like
The
it was very Indiana
weightlessness
Jones, right?
out of the seat,
Yes,
right?
the
So cool.
detective lifts up out of his seat, hits his head on the top, and then comes back down. Like he's weightless for a second as she dives, like you would be in real life on a planet with gravity in an aircraft. It's amazing. This is just a little cartoon. I'm using air quotes for people listening, and they're getting to do this stuff. So it's beautiful. All right, we might as well, since we're yapping, get into stolen plans.
What have you done with those plans?
Chapter 5, Inquisition. How fitting. Debuted Monday, April 20th, 2026 on Disney+. D+ description says, Captain Lawson faces a sobering new reality. Very true. Directed by Saul Ruiz and Tatiana Drury-Carvin, written by Jennifer Corbett, who is a longtime Clone Wars, Star Wars animated writer. She does a lot of the fantastic episodes from animated Star Wars. Score, of course, by the Kiners, and the runtime is 25 minutes. Rolling that right into Chapter 6, which is Night of the Hunted. Even the titles are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Also on Monday, April 20th, Disney+ description on this one. Pushed to their breaking point, our heroes have no choice but to run. Directed by Stuart Lee, written by Christopher Yost, scored by the Kiners, of course, and again, a 25-minute runtime. Our newly introduced cast this episode is Drea Lawson, who is played by Tamlin Tomita. Lawson's ex on the show. She's had a long, expansive career as a character actor, best known for her co-starring role as Waverly Wong with fellow Star Wars actor Ming-Na Wen in the Joy Luck Club. It's pretty cool to see her. And we are going to talk a little bit about this character, but she has fully drank the empirical Kool-Aid. And I can only imagine what that feels like to be like, checking in on my kid. How's everything going? Your dad's in a little bit of trouble. Okay, cool. And then all of a sudden, your dad is now the most wanted person on your planet. A little disruptive.
Look at that stress between her eyebrows, though.
She's stressing it. She knows. She gets it. Imperial Lieutenant Blake, played by Alistair James Murden, who worked in Starfield and Dune, Awakening, the video games, and the Frozen podcast series. So going from Olaf to now being the worst Imperial officer we've seen since the Bad Batch. So everything's going great for these guys. Let's switch over to Marok, the first brother, who is played by AJ Locascio, who's done Han Solo and Lego Star Wars, Colby in the Tales of the Underworld, and Gambit in X-Men 97. Dude is a huge Star Wars fan, totally part of the crew. He's an awesome guy. It's really cool to hear Marok being voiced by him. Let's switch back over to Rena Sewell, who is not, this isn't her first couple episodes, but I think for most people who didn't watch, if you're watching on YouTube, you would probably recognize Pam Adlon. She's Bobby Hill in King of the Hill, which is pretty fun. She's Sam Fox in Better Things, where she was nominated twice for an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. And her daughter is Devin. Bobby? Selling propane together. It's wonderful for them. So we have some new characters that are introduced in the show. And we kind of knew this was going to happen. As soon as the Star Destroyer showed up, you knew it was going to get bad.
It do be getting bad. Yeah.
Thanks, Two Boots.
We were speculating last week that maybe Lawson's wife would be the commanding officer that could just walk right down the ramp and really, really set up some gnarly stuff. It seems to be, it's not quite that complex, I guess, or it remains to be seen, like what actually comes from this. Maybe this is the kind of thing where she's being set up to not be absolutely that fully at odds. But like you said earlier, when she finds out that her husband is like one of the most wanted people in the galaxy now, maybe that's where it's going to be tough for her. She's going to, who knows? I don't want to speculate too much because we'll date this episode. But
I will say that this is probably, in terms of pacing, this show went from 50 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
Almost to a point where, like, I wish a little bit we would have seen Lawson's struggle between, knowing that he's trying to figure this out on his own. He doesn't want to get the Empire involved. And so you didn't really see him get to play both sides a little bit. You kind of saw him go, oh, my captain basically just got put in the Narkina system for some reason, dragged away violently. And then suddenly I'm in it. So I think in terms of that, I wish that was a little bit different myself. But the fact that we got right into it, both of these episodes felt like Clone Wars episodes in terms of just big action. What's crazy is there's been action nearly every single episode in this season so far.
High-level action sequences.
High-level action sequences. So the fact that now we're flying lats around, I'm just like, this is crazy. And we have 4 more episodes left, which is nuts. So
what I can't wait to make is the reel where Lawson goes from he's being interrogated, telling his kid it's going to be fine, to they're harboring fugitives, to he's killing stormtroopers.
Yes.
Cut to K2SO from Rogue One going, you're a rebel now.
Yeah, he really transitioned to murdering many stormtroopers almost immediately, which, I mean, again, no real speculation here, but it does give a little bit of intrigue on what his past is like, because it seemed like he already knew right away that Empire that this is not something that we want to mess with. We don't want to invite them into our city because he knows that it's going to spiral out of control. So I think that speaks to maybe some experience that perhaps we haven't been introduced yet, that he has in his past.
And they did a little bit of the, Zori Bliss, Poe Dameron. We had a cast there with Rena. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Jason. I think that's great. And I can also appreciate anyone who's dodging gunship blaster fire and then just pops out with a little handgun blaster and just starts shooting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Anyway, I started blasting.
Anyways, exactly. I started blasting with my little noisy cricket against an entire lat gunship. So respect, to be honest.
Respect. All right, let's do a little synopsis rundown, and we'll probably talk a little bit more through this, and then we have a handful of things in the Den of Antiquities that's really fun. All right, I'll do the quick rundown, the synopsis here. So, Chapter 5, Imperial forces led by Lieutenant Blake and the Inquisitor Marok occupy Janix. They take over the investigation into Maul. They pull the old, this is our jurisdiction now maneuver, right? Chief Kleiss is interrogated by the Imperials before being, quote, permanently resigned. Captain Lawson is questioned by Marok, claims he first encountered Maul during an ambush at the abandoned factory, so he navigates that pretty well. He does get released. I guess it's up for debate whether or not the ex-wife had anything to do with him getting released and what her motives would be there. Could it just be for Riley, or could it be, I'm going to give him enough rope to hang himself kind of thing, which he obviously does. Riley can't get a hold of his dad, so that's when he reaches out to his mom. She claims the Empire is only on Janix to protect its population. It's feeling familiar here.
Mm-hmm.
Marok goes to investigate the abandoned factory. Awesome scene. This was way more depth from an Inquisitor like Marok than I expected. Really cool the way he went and touched all of the saber wounds on the walls and stuff, and he was hearing. I don't know if he was hearing or we were. It was meant to be almost like metaphorical. The sounds of. Almost like when Rey holds the saber and she's like or the dagger, and she says terrible things have been done with this.
Yeah, I think it's like the Force echo from that Cal Kestis can do. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
exactly.
I thought that was really great because if we are leaning into whatever each story is of that they were, Force sensitive or they were Jedi in training or whatever, this would make sense because some Jedi do have that power. So the fact that Marok is using it as a way to investigate makes him very powerful to people like Vader / Palpatine.
And interesting because you think about who Inquisitors are supposed to be. Who was it that referred to them? Was it Maul that said they're the worst kind of Force user or something along those lines? You remember that was in one of the first couple episodes about how they're not Sith, they're not Jedi, they're the most lost or something like that. So it's interesting. Like you would think that ability to hear those Force echoes is more of a Jedi trait than a Sith trait. So that really aligns with that idea of these Force users being lost and looking for somewhere to put all of these emotions from all their experiences. We've got Maul and the Shadow Collective retreating down to the lower levels. It was really, I think, like geographically, the way they compose everything and the way they cut and set up like these worlds, it was very clear how like off the beaten path and down in the depths they were. It's not just like hard cut to a shadowy underground thing that you have no idea where it. They do a really good job of making it feel like, oh, they're really down and out there away, and that's how they can have this hideout and at least remain hidden for the time being until the shit hits the fan later. Despite second in command, Rookcast, despite her concerns, Maul decides to still hang on Janix for a while until he can recruit Devon. So he's really hung up on this. She kind of pleads with him. And then there was the side conversation with the other Mauldalorians. So we're seeing maybe some splintering there. Master Daki and Devon escape. The stormtroopers following, a little bit of a confrontation there with the Empire now establishing all these checkpoints at the city's exits. They're pretty much trapped. And they say, I forgot what the line is, but it's something like, we need help. And I think Daki says,
we only need one.
We only need one call or something like that.
Who's going to help us now? We only need one person. I think what was really portrayed well in this is that when you think about planets and you think about escaping and you think about when one person is trying to escape, leave somewhere, even in our real lives, right? You're like, it takes forever to find this person. People have been on the run for years, whatever. It really did feel like the Empire came with a freaking net and just put it down on Janix, because like there's all these different points where it was like every time they'd be like, we could try to get off world, we could try to do this. They're like, no ships are leaving. All the ports that you're going to go to, we have those locked down. Like all this, you started to feel suffocated for them, which I was like, I'm stressed for them at some point where you're out in Tatooine being like, no one's going to know if I'm leaving.
Yeah. And it's kind of a running joke that in Star Wars, it's an ice planet or it's a jungle planet or it's a desert planet and the whole planet has the same climate, but there are some cases where we're talking about smaller worlds, but assuming all of them are at least Earth size, that's a lot of space, right? But I'm starting to think of these, especially like the Outer Rim planets or the ones that haven't been touched by the Empire yet, as just colonies, like small colonies in one location on a planet, maybe the only part of the planet that is suitable to inhabit in the capacity that they need to. That's where all the population is. And you talk about a spaceport and what's necessary, like technologically, to get in and out of orbit. They don't really go into this is not hard sci-fi. It's barely even soft sci-fi, but some of that logic applies where like, if they're locking it down, that could mean whatever space lanes, whatever, window of opportunity you have to actually launch comes from this small location in this small colony. I mean, you think about something like Riley's playing at the Janix Stadium, this giant stadium for the whole planet, essentially, right? That feels kind of goofy at first glance, but then you think about it, like if that's the colony, if that's the whole place, okay, yeah, this actually is a pretty small world in a sense.
The high school plays at the same place that the pros play at.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Chapter 6. As Master Daki explains his situation to Lawson, his apartment gets invaded by Marok. And this I did not see coming at this pace. Like they were just having a conversation. Seconds later, they're having a full-blown lightsaber battle inside the apartment. The thing catches on fire. And I thought there was a really cool little animation. They got to do sparking and fizzling out as it caught on fire. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And they end up, they go out the window. They're on the ledge. It's classic action movie stuff. They narrowly escape. Lawson's and the Jedi go to Rena Sewell, back to the friend of the casino for help escaping, but they're forced to flee again when the stormtroopers invade because somebody tips them off. Devon and Riley are separated from Master Daki and Lawson, and they're pursued by Marok aboard a train, apparently a passenger train that also has like flatbed cars in the back. There's this awesome lightsaber battle there. It's really suspenseful. Like it's really well, timed and blocked out and everything.
Classic roof of train battle.
Absolutely.
Just jumping from car to car. Yeah, really, really directed really well.
Mission Impossible style.
Exactly.
Maul shows up, and it's a classic, like, we couldn't get the saying right the other day, but like, what was it? A friend of my enemy is whatever. My enemy is my friend's Who's on first? What's on second?
Exactly that.
Can't get
And
forward.
but it's a little Rey and Kylo Ren against the
Praetorian Guards.
Praetorian Guards kind of vibe.
Yeah, I agree.
They defeat Marok.
I mean, did they?
I mean,
was a close call, but being like, you know what? We got to drop the dead weight.
Yeah, we'll call it they escape Marok. We'll say that.
Yeah.
And there's a moment.
And then the guy's just sitting there in the middle of in a tunnel, and he's like, well, shit.
Yeah. I guess I'll turn around. And then Devin turns her lightsaber on Maul, and he's like, hold up, you sure you want to do this? And it cuts. We go to Marok reporting back on the Star Destroyer to a hologram. He says, my lord, Maul is in the mix. There's this big deal. We debated heavily before we started recording this podcast who was in that hologram. We have strong feelings about it. I won't even begin to hint at who was saying what, but that's the bonus segment. Ryan Key was on for that. He had to bail, so we did it first. It's a heated debate. It's a good listen. It's a good watch if you're a patron and you want to check that out. Patreon.com/ThinkTheMakerPod. So, thoughts, feelings on anything that I kind of like rushed through there that we haven't talked about yet?
Jason, I need your perspective.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's two moments that come to mind. Actually, there's more than two. I mean, these two episodes were so far my favorite of this season. Just really felt very cinematic, heavy.
Consequential.
Consequential. The way the story is unfolding is really riveting. Like it makes me want to get to next week really, really quickly. But two in particular, Adam, you were touching on whenever the Empire starts to exert its force here on Janix, and they kind of quickly shut down the town, roving groups of troopers asking for identification. I mean, this is art imitating life. I mean, this is kind of, not to put too fine a point on it, but this feels really tangible to those of us in the United States here. So that kind of wrinkle and overlapping into reality felt very, very substantial to us, I'm sure. And then as an extension of that, we know that Two Boots, just through his programming, but also as an analog for people who, maybe are just trusting of the government and trusting of the way that things are supposed to be, he called for the Empire. At a point in episode 6, he is then confronted with the reality of his choice that he made to call the Empire. And he understands that, he's just getting this dose of reality that, this is not going the way that he had anticipated. And maybe he should have listened to Lawson, but, just seeing that and sort of seeing this reaction where, he was sort of understanding, wow, I really shouldn't have done this, was pretty affecting, I think.
And two, for his, for the officer to tell him those boots aren't up to code.
Yeah, man.
You have to, you know what I mean? That is, in some ways, that is stripping the clones of their color and their identifying markers. That is Pong Krell stripping them of their names and referring them only by their CT numbers. This is no droids in here. This is, the Empire has been fighting a droid army for the past 20 years. So for them to go, droids are at our disposal. We do not care if they die. We do not care if they're deprogrammed, whatever these things are. It was on display. It was going to show, like, for people who cozy up with a hyena, it eventually will turn on you. Mm-hmm. And that is a human thing that a lot of humans haven't learned, but a lot have. And a droid almost, it's such a great juxtaposition between what is programming. How much of us have bought into the idea that, like, they're here to protect you, but as soon as they're not, then you're like, all of a sudden we're all on the run.
Yeah, and like in a similar way, I wonder if, we were sort of speculating that Drea maybe was high up, or, a commanding officer or something in the Empire. I wonder if she's just like a Cyril Karn that's working in an office somewhere.
That's the vibe I'm starting to get.
And, and she's just a true believer. She doesn't really understand. She's a little too naive to understand just how much evil there is behind this fascist regime. She might be getting taken for a ride as well, in the same way that Two Boots was.
I didn't recognize her outfit. Like, I at this point, they're not afraid to put people in Imperial officers. But I also didn't notice the tie, like if Cyril was an indicator of what the ranks were, right? He wasn't in full officer yet. He was a bookkeeper in some regards. I like that idea that she's a clerk or something or helping,
She's just a work-a-day. She's a cog in the cog, as it were.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, Natasha in the patron chat just dropped one on us. First, they came for my captain, and I did nothing. Then they came for my partner, and I stayed silent. Then they came for my boots.
and no one was left to tie my boots for me. And
Oh, well played.
is a tragedy that we've all seen. But no, I'm with you on that, Jason. I think this was a great. I think my only critique was that knowing that we know that season 2 is coming, and just the fact that we're getting both drops, 2 episodes in one day, makes it feel very fast. And for the part of going, Lawson, I would have loved to see a little bit more of Lawson's backstory, which we might get forced out of him to kind of confront some of his past, as now he's kind of being forced in this new reality. I thought we were going to get an indicator when, Riley and Devin are talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm just basically just kind of saying, I'm just like a dumb kid from the suburbs. And she's like, my upbringing was a little bit different. I'm like, oh, I thought she was going to say I'm from Ryloth, and we've been at war for years.
Yeah.
I was born in it, So I think that's pretty cool. But also the fact that she has just witnessed nearly genocide of her religion and the people that she's trained with and come to know. So it is pretty on the nose in terms of showing their differences, but I thought it was cool that they had that connection in there. And the visual cues, oh my gosh, Devin looks up at Maul. She's covered in red. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Hey, let's watch this clip of Riley talking to his mom and see if we can glean anything from this real quick.
Riley, I got your messages. What's so urgent?
Mom, you need to come home.
What's wrong?
The Empire's here.
Okay.
I went looking for Dad, but Two Boots said he was being interrogated.
Your father. What did he do now?
Something's happening and Dad's involved, something big.
If troopers are there, then it's to keep everyone safe. Whatever the reason, don't interfere. If they ask you to do something, cooperate.
But what about Dad?
Tell him to do the same. I'm sure he'll be back soon. I'm sorry, Rai, but I have to get back to work. Trust me, everything will be fine, okay?
Okay.
I love you. Let's talk later.
What did he do now? She says.
Everything was not fine.
Everything will be fine, punctuated by the sound of a lat flying over the apartment.
Right.
Yeah.
She says, what did he do now? I wonder
Yeah.
if she knows about his history with, what's her name?
It's got to be. It's got to be that, like, the fine line between this is police work and also I'm in the suck. I'm a part of it. I'm too far gone. There is something more to Lawson that we're gonna find out.
And again, here's the third Heat reference. Thinking about like what cops are in who are in too deep do, whether it's undercover or they're so immersed in the world. I'm thinking a little bit of Training Day kind of vibes. Maybe it was.
It's what you can prove.
Yeah, maybe it was whatever went down when Lawson and what is the character's name? Where they saved each other's lives, basically. Rena, yeah. Whatever that event was. It wasn't. They talked a little bit too much about that, a little too specifically for that to just be a throwaway.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to find out what's there.
Basically, it seems like a shootout went. What did he say? But it went as bad as it could go, which means lots of people died. Yeah. No one got what they wanted, and either he was working with her or she was, whatever. I think his wife was like, I think I've had enough. I'm going to go work for the Empire. That could be better than this, which tells you that the Empire's marketing department is in full swing right now. They're crushing it. Good job, guys.
You got those cookies.
Yeah.
The other thing we didn't talk about is how episode 6 opens with Maul training on his own. He's moving through his lightsaber exercises. Man, you don't put that kind of thing in this if you're not really trying to sell the audience on a villain being so much more than just a villain. I compared Maul to Loki. I posted this on Threads. I had a
Oh,
couple
I
of
like
people
it.
respond with, "Bro, no." I think people are missing what I was getting at with that. Loki, at least in the MCU, was a villain. Yes, Thor's brother, but like, I mean, there's an entire movie centered around him being a pure piece of shit villain. There's the jokes about you're the worst brother or whatever, and it can be lighthearted at moments, but the dude was a full-on villain. The Loki series completely changed that view of him. For me, I think it was meant to, not necessarily totally redeem him, but to add complexity and depth to his character, to turn him from a full villain to more of an anti-hero in some sense. And that's what I'm feeling about Maul in this.
He's come a long way as being that, barely contained ball of rage that we saw in episode 1, through to, this journey that he's had where, he's had to meditate in the bottom of a trash heap for however
Yeah.
long. And now he's meditating with tea and doing his lightsaber kata. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. He's had quite a journey, this guy, and he's still got a ways to go too.
Yeah. What a character, man. All right, let's get into the Den of Antiquities.
For over 1,000 generations.
It is the dark saber.
Torgon, Togosh.
It's a Kalikori.
A Sith wayfinder.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
The Den of Antiquities, starting with Master Daki saying to a stormtrooper, quote, "You have seen my identification," which is an obvious throwback to Obi-Wan in A New Hope telling the stormtroopers in Mos Eisley, you don't need to see his identification. Another interesting little wrinkle in this scene is that we finally get to see what happens when a third party witnesses a Jedi mind trick.
Yes.
There was the other stormtrooper that said, "Hey, why, what happened? Why did you tell him that he was free to go?" And then, of course, that broke it. And so that answers that question if we've ever thought about that before. Lots of new Imperial gear, of course, with the Empire on the scene here in Janix. We've been talking about this the whole episode with the LATs arriving, the low altitude assault transport. These are Imperial gunships seen transporting stormtroopers all over the place. They are employed frequently by clone troopers during the Clone Wars, and of course, they've just lasted into the Imperial era.
But to Mike's point earlier about the Empire stripping everyone and everything of personality, these are now plain white to match the current Star Destroyers and everything else versus the old, red and kind of off-white and green and everything of the old ones.
That's true. We have the appearance of the Imperial Row class shuttle, also seen transporting Imperial officers and equipment to the surface of Janix. These were first seen in the Clone Wars, and we last saw these in the Bad Batch. The conscripted Macquarie-style TK troopers are the standard shock troopers used by the Empire at this time. They're a newish intermediate trooper variant between the prequels era Phase 2 clone trooper and the classic OT TK trooper. Those were introduced in the Bad Batch, and they are equipped with the old DC-15A clone blaster rifles. So those E11s have not showed up on the scene yet. They're using those old rifles. We see walking around an ATAC, the all-terrain armored cannon, patrolling Janix City. This is an early Imperial precursor to the ATST. I had to look this one up. I noticed that it looked different, and this was a new one for me. I mean, I'm just a bad Star Wars fan apparently, but
do you know how many people said, "Oh, it's an ATST"?
It is not, though. That's an ATAC, guys.
100%.
Come on.
Does that cannon pop out of the chin there? Because you can see it without it on the left.
Must be.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like they have them on the side too.
Or maybe two different variants there.
I really dug for that, and on Wikipedia it was exactly that's what this left image is from.
Mm-hmm.
And the one on the right, I guess that cannon just pops down out of that.
The Lawson's apartment, filled with all kinds of interesting props, many of which have appeared in previous animated series, including an opened but uneaten chocolate bar that we've seen in the Bad Batch. We have a large ball that Riley holds, which was originally seen in Tales of the Jedi, and a series of eating utensils that were first seen on Pabu in the Bad Batch.
Love that.
Yeah, this is a neat one. Rena says in response to Eco looking for off-world transport, she says, quote, "With the Kohun's nest that's been stirred up out here, there's heat on everyone right now." And of course, a Kohun as you might remember. Small, venomous, multi-legged arthropod. If you remember, bounty hunter Zam Wessel used a pair of cohoons in her second attempt to assassinate Senator Padme Amidala while on Coruscant. The creatures were given to her by her colleague Jango Fett. We see when Maul is getting his cybernetic leg fixed. You see his brother's Talzin stone in the background.
Missed that.
Hanging around his neck. Yeah, this was one that popped up from our Discord, so thanks. Thanks for that one. When Maul is training, doing his lightsaber kata, he displays all 7 styles of lightsaber combat.
Sick.
That's an interesting one, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, for as much as I love lightsabers, I've never been able to discern the different styles by looking at people practicing them, and I think that it's an amazing ability whenever people can call that stuff out.
Yeah, I recognize certain stances. That's it.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Like I said, we're going to talk about the final scene, the final shot in this episode. We're going to argue about who it is. When Marok says, "My lord," who is he referring to? Who are we going to see next week? This is an argument that will only be relevant and fun to listen to for about a week. Maybe it'll be even more fun after. Who knows?
Yeah.
Watch it be, fucking Jar Jar Binks or something. And
we
then
should play some credits on this. Let's play for ice cream cones. Something, guys.
All right.
Come on, all right.
I don't even know what answer I fully landed on. I was torn 3 different directions on this. So we'll see.
They're all good though. And any of the options are good.
Yeah.
One's better than the other.
Nice. Bait him with it.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Patrons, we appreciate you so much. You make it possible. I know I say it often. Maybe I don't say it often enough, but it's true. We're not exactly raking in the ad dollars. You know what I'm saying? So you want us to make this podcast, we make it for you. We enjoy it. It's a good time to be a Star Wars fan.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll have Ryan Key back next week, possibly Nick, but hopefully for the finale, we'll have all 4, and we're going to get mauled. We're going to keep getting mauled. It's good shit. All right, folks. Until next week, may the Force be with you. Thank the Maker is produced by Adam Russell and Jason Chiodo, and edited by Jason Chiodo. If you enjoy the podcast, you can support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, and more. Our patrons literally make Thank the Maker possible.